today's math practice goes over our double-digit by double-digit area models. It's really important to make sure that you make your boxes big enough that you can write in them. Okay. So my first number is 12, and that splits up into its place value parts of 10 and 2. And my second number is 15, which splits into the place value parts 10 and 5. Now, if you flipped the numbers and had 12 on top and 15 on the side, that's okay. Because it doesn't matter which order we multiply in, we'll get the same answer. Now, to fill in the boxes, I'm going to start with this top row, which has 10. So both of these are going to have 10. And then they're being multiplied with what's on top of the column. So this first box has a 10 on top. So I'm going to do 10 times 10, which is 100. And the second row has a 5 on top. So 10 times 5 is 50. And then when I go to the bottom row, there's a 2. So both of these are going to have a 2. And then I go back to the top. This one has a 10 on top. 2 times 10 is 20. And this one has a 5 on top. So 2 times 5 is 10. Then to solve, I just add up my 4 pieces. I have 100 plus 50 plus 20 and 10. So I know that 12 times 15 is 180. Okay, let's look at the next one. 14 times 17. Again, I'm going to start with my rectangle and make it nice and big that I can write in it. And this time I'll put 14 on top just to show that it doesn't matter. And 14 splits up to 10 and 4. And 17 splits up into 10 and 7. Okay, then to do my multiplying, I stick the 10 in the top row. Okay, and then I go with what's on top. 10's on top, and 10 times 10 is 100. And 4 is on top, so 10 times 4 is 40. Now my bottom row has the 7, and on top here is a 10, so 7 times 10 is 70, and 7 times 4 is 28. So I'm going to add up 100 plus 70 plus 40 plus 28. And I end up with 238. So 17 is 238. Let's look at the next one. My one side is going to be 16, which is going to split up into 10 and 6. And my top is going to say 24. And this time there's 2 in the tens place, so it's going to be 20 and 4, not just the 10. Okay. My top row, I'm still dealing with that 10. And on top here I have a 20. So 10 times 20 is 200. And on this time I have a 4 on top, so 10 times 4 is 40. Then my bottom row has a 6. And on top of this first column is my 20. 6 times 20 is 120. And on top of the second one is my 4. So 6 times 4 is 24. Then I add up my parts. I'm going to add 200, 120, 40, and 24. So I know that 16 times 24 is 84. Okay, let's look at the back. I have 18, which splits up into 10 and 8. And I have 22, which splits up into 20 and 2. My top row has that 10. And on top of the first one is a 20. So 10 times 20 is 200. And on top of the second column is a 2. So 10 times 2 is 20. And in my bottom row, I have 8. And on top of the first one is still that 20. So 8 times 20 is 160. And on top of the second row is my 2. So 8 times 2 is 16. Then I add up my parts. And I end up with 18 times 20. My next one is 12 times 16. And 12 will split up to 10 and 2. And 16 will split up into 10 and 6. So my top row has the tens. And I'm doing 10 times 10, which is 100. And then 10 times 6, which is 60. My bottom row has the 2 times 10 is 20. And times 6 is 12. Then I add up my parts. 100 plus 60 plus 20 plus 12. And I know 12 times 16 is 192. The next one is 13 times 18. So we should be getting pretty comfortable at setting up and splitting up our number. 13 splits up into 10 and 3. And 18 would split up into 10 and 8. And on top I have the 10. And on top of the first column I have another 10. So 10 times 10 is 100. And on top of the second one I have an 8. So 10 times 8 is 80. On my bottom row I have my 3's. On top of the first column's at 10 again. So 3 times 10 is 30. And 3 times 8 is 24. Then I add up my parts. 100, 80, 30, and 24. So I know that 13 is 234. Looking at the last page, I have 16 times 31. So 16 splits up into 10 and 6. And 31 has 3 in the tens place, so 30 and 1. Now I have tens on the top row, and on top of the first column is a 30, so 10 times 30 is 300. And on top of the second one is a 1, so 10 times 1 is 10. On my bottom row, I have 6, and on top is the 30, so 6 times 30 is 180, and 6 times 1 is 6. And then we add up our parts. 300, 180, 10, and 6. And we end up with 16 times 31, 196. My next one is 24 times 27. So 24 will split up into 20 and 4. And 27 will split up into 20 and 7. So across my top row I have 20 this time, not 10. And on top of the first row is my 20. So 20 times 20 is 400, because 2 times 2 is 4, and then I have 2 zeros. And then 20 times 7 is 140. On my bottom row I have my 4's. And on top of the first one is my 20. So 4 times 20 is 80. And 4 times 7 is 28. And then I'm going to add up my parts. 400, 140, 80, and 28. 8, 14, and So I have 20 plus 27 is 648. And our last problem is 14, which splits up into 10 and 4, and 23, which splits up into 20 and 3. So I have 10s across the top again, and this first one is being multiplied by 20, which is 200. The second one's being multiplied by 10 times 3, which is 30. My bottom row has 4s. And on top of the first one is 20, so 4 times 20 is 80. And the second one has that 3 on top, so 4 times 3 is 12. And then I add up my pieces. 280, 30, and 12. 12, 3. So that's our double digit practice with area models.